And we have a foundation that cannot be shaken. But the incompetence of the management, those are some of the consequences of, fall into the ultimate depravity that we see in Isaiah 5 that a nation can fall into, of calling good evil and evil good, and honoring the dishonorable and dishonoring the honorable man. The first judgment of God against such a nation is being given immature, capricious leaders. The incompetence of our government is now mind-boggling. I mean, this is incomprehensible. It's big news every week, and we've almost gotten desensitized to it. But where did that $1 trillion of stimulus money go? They can't even tell us. $1 trillion went. The Economic Recovery Act, Jobs Bill, all that money. The studies that have been done, which they quit publicizing, were indicating that every job, like the ones in the Los Angeles City County and others, which I published in my book, I See a New America, I published those studies, they were paying $1 million per job for the jobs created under that job. That's how inefficient our government is. Did the people doing the work getting those jobs get that $1 million? They don't know where it went. Consumed in bureaucracy and just lost. I mean, the incompetence, the mismanagement, stewardship is a major aspect of righteousness. We have one of the most unrighteous governments as far as stewardship that has ever been on the planet. And what do they want to do? Tax the rich. Okay? One thing, we tell them invest, build companies, come here, don't go to other places. But if you come here and you risk everything and you win, we're going to come after you. And the more you win, the more we're going to take from you. And doesn't that encourage you and make you want to come here and invest? It's bizarre. It's crazy. Doesn't make any sense. Why in the world would we tax those who obviously know how to manage their money and according to Jesus are the good and faithful servants? Who were the good and faithful servants? The good stewards who took what they were entrusted with and multiplied it. Who was the wicked, evil slave? The one who lost what was entrusted to him. I tell you right now, our federal government is the most wicked, evil slave, I think, on the planet. And guess what? You know what that means? We are. Because we're the sovereign. They work for us. We've elected such people that don't know what they're doing. We've allowed it. We've tolerated it. We can't do it anymore. We can't lose another one. We can't keep going down this path. So why should we go and take more away from those who obviously know how to manage their money and give it to a government that obviously doesn't? Their own studies on themselves, government agencies, for every $10 given to them, only one was making it out to meet the need that agency existed for. 90% lost, consumed, and they don't even know where. We've let this happen. We've let it happen. We have to take responsibility. Now, the foundations of our economy are being consumed, but our most basic freedoms of speech and religion are also threatened. I shared with you how, we were having lunch I took Reinhard Bonnke over to meet with Franklin Graham. Franklin had us over to have lunch a few weeks ago, and we were just talking about the election. So, Franklin, what do you think? He said, well, I think if Obama gets reelected, we're going off a cliff. He said, and I think if Romney gets reelected, we're going off a cliff. Maybe a little more slowly, but we're going off a cliff. I think that's pretty accurate. Both parties are leading us to disaster. Now, I also think the Democratic National Convention showed who they really were right here in our city. I mean, if that doesn't wake up anyone who's still a member of the Democratic Party, I don't know what will. You may have seen the bishops going around. E.W. Jackson, who preached right here in our church a number months ago, was running for the U.S. Senate in Virginia, lost in the primary. His video's gone viral everywhere when he's calling for all black Christians to leave the Democratic Party. He says, no way that we can continue as Christians to be a part of a party that holds to these basic things that are in very basic conflict with Scripture, with morality, and with all. I mean, it was a powerful and articulate. I think Bishop E.W. Jackson is one of the most powerful orators being raised up in our nation right now. He is a future leader, major leader of our nation. And I would say right now, I cannot personally understand how any Christian could stay in the Democratic Party with the positions they've now taken. Now, I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you according to Scripture. Now, you have a choice. You can't help it if you're a citizen of a country. You own that country. You can't. You were born there. You can give up your citizenship, but you know what I mean. We got to be salt and light. So I'm not going to ever leave my country. I hear people all the time saying, we got to get out of here. We got to move. We got to move to somewhere. Say, I'm not going anywhere. I'll die before I go anywhere. I was put here salt and light, and this is where I'm staying. Regardless where the country goes, I will stay here. And whoever gets elected, I'm going to pray for them. They're our leader. I'm going to pray for them as much as I can, fast for them, everything else, which I am doing right now for our president, our present president. But you do have a choice which political party you're a part of. I do believe our votes are counted in heaven. I believe who we vote for. You can do it secret here, but everything we do here is going to be told there. These are called the books of life. They're going to be opened. And there are certain things that are so basically in conflict with God. They don't want God anymore. They made it clear right here in Charlotte at the Democratic National Convention. 3 times they voted. Do you want God in our platform? No. I mean, it was loud and clear. They then said from the platform, well, it passes. It didn't pass. They said no. We want abortion. We want to kill babies. We want all these other things, but we don't want God. We don't want Jerusalem to be mentioned. It's the capital of Israel. That should tell us a lot. To me, we go on siding with anything that's become as clear as what is now promoted, the immorality that is in basic conflict with biblical morality, God's standards of righteousness, and murder. How can we stay there? I personally, anymore, I would say I will not trust that person's judgment in just about anything if they claim to be a Christian and are still a part of that. There is a time to leave when you have to leave. If this were being done in the Republican Party, and there's some things we're doing this, but right now, the only thing the Republican Party is they still say they want God. And they're still standing for basic pro-life principles and biblical morality principles. But I want to talk a little bit about the, many do have a question about how could they vote for Romney being a Mormon and some of the beliefs there. I could certainly understand that. I think if you checked out liberation theology, though, studied that, you would be far more alarmed. That's what Barack Obama came up under. Far more alarmed. Now, I am in no way endorsing Mormonism or Catholicism. A lot of our leaders are Catholics. But I tell you, I so appreciate the Catholic Church. I so appreciate the Mormon Church for the stands they've taken for some of the ultimate social issues of our times. And they have taken those stands based on biblical morality. Okay, and when it says, how can we walk together unless we be agreed? That doesn't mean we have to agree on every little point to walk together, because most of us couldn't walk with our spouses if we did that. But what it does mean, we walk together on those points where we do agree. And I am so appreciative of that. But one thing the Mormon church has done, I'm not promoting Mormonism, but it is a part of their church doctrine that our Constitution was divinely inspired. And that obeying our Constitution is a part of their biblical responsibility. Now, you know the prophecy. Goes back, the earliest it was written, or that it's been able to be found that it was written, was 1897. Now, I don't know if this prophecy is true or accurate or what its source. The Mormon Church does not claim it. But there is a prophecy that was first published in 1897, and it was supposed to have come out in 1847, that in a time when the American Constitution was hanging by a thread, and it would be a time of great prosperity in the Mormon Church. And right now, the Mormon business people are some of the most prosperous in our country. But it would be at that time that God would raise up a Mormon as president to save our Constitution. Now, that's been in the news. It's been all over the place. Romney's been questioned. He said, look, I don't know I don't know where that came from. Can't say anything about it. His father was questioned about it a lot when he was governor of Michigan. He said, I don't know. And I don't know. But to me, the one thing sure, our Constitution is hanging by the thinnest thread right now. And one thing I would trust much more someone who has a part as their basic fabric or doctrine, religious doctrine, to defend that Constitution, because it has been under assault. Now, I had a dream several years ago that Ronald Reagan was going to rise up and save our country again. Now, Ronald Reagan's dead. He's not going to come back from the dead. But I felt like his policies, somehow, I wrote about this a long time ago, were going to be used to save us from real, actual destruction. And I'm encouraged that Romney does hold to Reaganomics. He believes that is an answer that can really help get us back on track. Ricky Skagg's been with Paul Ryan and Romney for the last week, I think. Ricky's been texting me and all, but it was just shared with me. Tom just shared with me a few minutes ago how Beth Alva shared, she was in communication with Ricky too, and he shared with Romney how so many Christians were praying and fasting for this election, and he said just big tears came up in Romney's eyes. I've had others. General Boykin, who's a friend of ours, has spent a day with Romney, left very encouraged. I haven't spent any time with him. But I know our Constitution is under the most serious attack right now. And I believe an Obama re-election could be the end of our republic as we know it. I'm saying that boldly. We have never had this level of deception from our own government. We've never had one less transparent when the opposite was promised. Executive orders are legal and they are constitutional, but they're intended to be used in the executive branch of government, not to make laws for the land. That's an unconstitutional use. Only the Congress can make the laws of the land. Go over and read some of those executive orders. It will shock the daylights out of you what is being imposed from our executive branch right now in executive orders. Now, it is tyranny. And it's a direct undermining of our Constitution from someone who took a vow of office to defend our Constitution from enemies both foreign and domestic. Now, this is somewhere, it is either the ultimate incompetence or delusion or deception we've ever seen in that office, or it is treason. It can't be anything else than those two as far as you go read them. Now, regardless of our political persuasion, I don't see why the Democratic Party hasn't been screaming bloody murder over this. I don't understand why our Republican Party has not been screaming bloody murder over this. Our Republican leaders have let us down too. But these should be deeply alarming to every American. I think there's very little courage almost anywhere in leadership in these times. In our Congress that is not standing up for our Constitution, they're betraying our Constitution as well. There is a federal law, a very good federal law, that says if you take an office, you take this oath, you are required to be competent to do your job. Now, I think one of the worst things coming upon us, though, is the result of the shedding of innocent blood. Throughout the scriptures, we're warned this will bring a curse on any land. It guarantees certain terrible consequences. What could be more innocent than the unborn, who've never even had a chance to do right or wrong? Now, you may say, well, when does life begin? Are they really a human being? Lord, Scripture tells us. If we're biblical people, we are followers, disciples of Jesus Christ. We believe His Word. His Word says if we do not speak according to His Word, we have no light. We have no dawn. We have to base our beliefs on His Word, regardless of what humanists say, what psychologists say, psychiatrists, anybody else. We have to take our stand on His Word. If Jesus, who was the Word, took His stand on it as written, how much more do we? His Word says the life is in the blood. If there's blood, there's life. There is life there. And there, throughout the scripture, I went through many of them this morning, the consequences of shedding innocent blood. What could be more innocent than that? But to me, even the beasts will gladly sacrifice their lives, willingly sacrifice their own lives to protect their young. We have fallen to an ultimate depravity when we kill our own young. That's an ultimate fall. And that is the deep darkness. Now, you may have had an abortion and you can be totally forgiven, totally restored. And those who are forgiven much love much. But this is an ultimate depravity. It is an ultimate slide into something that is subhuman, that even the beasts are doing better at than we are. Life is precious. We can't give it, but we can take it away. Only God can give it. So there's something of the theme of that. I believe that's why the first test of Solomon's wisdom was to discern the one that cared for life. That should be the first test of anyone we allow to be our executive. Go back and check what was the first executive order issued by this president. Why was that top priority? Get this done right away. We got to kill babies. Why would he vote 3 times for partial birth abortion, if anything is subhuman? Do you know what partial birth abortion is? You bring the baby outside the mother with just his head and everything, then you insert a tube into its brain to suck its brains out to kill it. And that baby sitting there screaming and thrashing. Our president voted for that, to allow that 3 times. How could anyone do that? How could any human being do such things? It gets worse. You get into that. What is this culture that has risen up in our nation? This is a death culture. How could any party say, we want that? We want the right to do that. But we sure don't want God mentioned in our platform. How could any Christian side with something like that? I don't understand it. And I tell you from now, and just about every Christian leader I know has started saying recently, listen, we want fellowship, we want unity, but Jesus also came to bring a sword. There are sometimes you have to divide, and we are not going to go on respecting those as leaders who side with that. We cannot do that. Yeah. Thank you.